what are some of those, I'll say challenges, right? And, problems that a do-it-yourself landlord can really run up against in the eviction, world.
Absolutely. So what I just described to you is a perfect situation. Okay. I mean, everything goes the way it's supposed to. That's the time period that I described to you. But if the landlord doesn't do exactly what the Texas property code requires, they can get kicked out at the JP court and have to completely start over. And there's no end to that until you get it right. And that, I know I've been around a long time, 40 odd years. And I know a lot of people used to do their own evictions,
Hmm.
because they don't want to pay that lawyer's fee to do all that. And I understand that. But the problem is now that may be false economy. Okay, because since the pandemic, other things have changed. Primarily, prior to the pandemic, I would say it was unusual for a tenant to have legal representation.
Okay.
Okay, usually the landlord was there and the tenant was there. No one had legal representation. All right.
Hmm.
Now, when the pandemic developed, and I'm not saying this is bad, good, indifferent, but once the pandemic happened and there was all the evictions and whatnot, a lot of resources have come into play for tenants. There's always been, legal aid. That's always been available to them. But now in the Metroplex, I will say there is a group of attorneys and more power to them. Good for them. They formed a company called the Eviction Advocacy Center, and they run it as a nonprofit. They employ attorneys, and they send these attorneys out all over. I mean, doesn't matter which JP court I go to, Garland, South Dallas, Grand Prairie. I was in Grand Prairie this morning. Wherever I am, there's generally a table there
Absolutely.
with a sign that says free representation for tenants.
Wow.
Okay. And those attorneys know what to look for. Again, it's all a delay tactic, right? They pretty much know unless they can work some deal out with the landlord, all they can do is delay the landlord in kicking them
Absolutely.
out, right? So that's what they are trying to do. They're trying to pour over the notices to vacate, the petitions, whether the CARE Act applies, and so that if a landlord has run afoul of any of that, they're going to bring it up in the hearing, and the judge is going to dismiss it, and the landlord's going to start all over.
Just some advice in general to landlords, right? Um, it is very, very important if you are going to manage your own property. It is important that you are doing your research of what's required for your property to be a legal rental,
Right.
right? So,
Absolutely. Oh, that is certainly true. Because nearly all of the towns now have ordinances regarding being a legal landlord, what you have to do before
absolutely,
you can even rent it. You're correct.
absolutely,
And
and
then
that's
also, yeah, also I just wanted to say, because I didn't really answer your question, the
yeah,
pitfalls are the notice, having an inaccurate petition and not having their sufficient evidence. And the notice, what's required for notice is spelled out in the Texas Property Code. You can send it regular mail. I don't advise that because you don't have any proof that you sent it. You can send it certified mail. That's what I do for all my clients. I send the notice to vacate by certified mail, and then I print off the postal services tracking that shows that it was delivered. And that's sufficient for judges. Or you can personally hand deliver it to the person. There's no problem with that. But if they're not there, that's where a lot of landlords run into trouble. because
Mhm.
the property code specifically says, uh, yeah, let me see, I got it written down, the specifics. You can affix a notice to the outside of the entry door in a sealed envelope containing the notice with the tenant's name and address, and in all capital letters, the words important document. And then you have to mail that the same day. Now, I always, if we have to resort to that, I always tell my landlords, take a picture that
Absolutely.
shows exactly that that's all been complied with. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Because a lot of them don't know to put important document. They can get thrown out for just not putting the words important document on there. And then the inaccurate petition, I just wanted to say, um, if you're foreclosing, if you're evicting for non-payment of rent, make sure that's what your petition says. If you're evicting for violation of some provisions of the lease,
Hmm.
then do not say non-payment of rent. You've got to specifically spell out what you're evicting them for. And additionally, if for whatever reason, I have a client that they are a corporate client and they let people go, their rents are really high and they let people go for months before they kick them out. In JP court, you cannot ask for more than $20,000. Anything over $20,000, the judge will say, that's out of my jurisdiction. So you're not going to get a judgment for rent if you ask for more than $20,000. Today, I had to cut it down so that I only asked for 20,000, even though they owed more. But we couldn't get a judgment from the JP if I did that. And then lastly, make sure that you have to provide evidence of military status. Uh, JPs will kick that out if you don't provide that. So those are kind of the pitfalls for do-it-yourselfers.